One part of the job that I love most is talking to everyday people who are doing extraordinary things, as they get older. Hi, I'm Andy Asher. I'm editor at BloomerBoomer. Now, the list includes some amazing adventures, athleticism, business, and creativity. Well, today we're talking to a guy who is adding to his amazing adventures. He is Jim Magner, and his adventures include big time poker and chess tournaments, author, and his day job was being a doctor. Now, Jim, it's just so exciting to have you here today. And that's quite a list of things that I just rattled off right there. That's pretty impressive.
Well, thanks. This should be fun.
It should.
I really want to have a conversation where, for boomers who want to enrich their lives and have some good ideas about retirement,
Wow.
I'd like to be as helpful to them as
I
possible.
think that is a high order, and that is really why we're here. And my first question, well, first of all, how old are you, and how have you been able to do such a wide array of seemingly, really, in my view, unrelated events?
They are unrelated, as you'll hear. I'm 68. I was born in a small town in Illinois, and I retired when I was about to turn 65.
But somehow I have these visions of this medical doctor who moonlights playing poker. Now, you can understand that, I think, can't you?
Yeah, so let me give a little explanation. I'm not a gambler at all. I'm a scientist. I'm a physician and a scientist. And I've always been very good at math, and I've loved science and natural history. I was a Boy Scout growing up in a small town in Illinois, so I was out in the woods. I would ride my bicycle without a helmet, I should add.
Let me just understand something. It was back in 2007 when you first got into this whole poker stuff?
Yeah, so it was about 12 years ago.
So you
But
haven't
I
been
knew
doing
nothing
this for a
about it.
long time.
Yeah, so I had seen it on cable TV.
Yeah.
Back in those days, they would have it occasionally on cable TV, but I didn't know how to
Did you
play.
get an
But I
itch?
could see that
You,
there was some statistics and math.
I see. So you saw some math possibilities, but did you get
Yes,
an itch
and
for it?
strategic.
Uh-huh. Okay,
I'm a chess player, and so it looked like there was some strategy, but also a lot of luck in
oh, a
poker.
lot of luck.
Yeah, a lot
Because
of that's what I
I don't
figured.
play much poker, but
Yeah.
I've always thought that these people who are winners all the time in that game know something that nobody else is aware of.
I'm not so sure. They're more skilled. We can come to that in a minute, but let me just quickly finish to tell you that this is the first time in recorded human history that a wife has guided her husband into a poker room and asked him to learn to play poker.
And that's
And
really
so I
sweet.
walked up with my chips. You can imagine this is actually what I said. There are all these guys sitting at the table. I said, I really don't know how to play, but I have $100 in
Yeah,
chips.
they said
I'll just sit
sure.
down.
They didn't believe that. You're so
It was
willing
true.
to do it. Well, okay,
So,
so I take it you took that a while. You took that ride for a while, and
yeah.
you got pretty serious about it. So tell us
Well,
about.
so I read some books.
Uh-huh.
That's very important. You have to study the game.
Uh-huh.
And then I practiced a little bit. I would occasionally, we have two big casinos in Connecticut. And if I would be driving by on an errand, one of the casinos, I would stop in and play a cash game. It's a type of a game of no limit hold'em where you can start and stop anytime you want. You could play 5 minutes or you could play 12 hours. But a tournament's different than cash. You pay your money and then you have to stay sometimes for hours until you get knocked out of the tournament. You can't just come and go as you want. But so that was a commitment that you would go on a Saturday, let's say, and you were going to be there all day. So that was not something in 2010 I would do very often, but I really like the tournaments. It's a little bit different strategy. And anyway, sort of maybe by accident, around 2013, I was getting better and getting pretty good. And I won, in 2013, I won $32,000 in a poker tournament. I took
That
sixth
isn't
place.
bad. And is that in Atlantic City? Was that a
That was
tournament
in
there?
Foxwoods in Connecticut.
So that's
So I
a
was,
regular poker tournament,
yeah.
and you walked away with $32,000. So let me ask you again. Give me a tip or a secret that I wouldn't have gotten unless I had talked to you.
Okay, the most important thing is that you can't learn poker just by playing to get experience, because you could win accidentally by doing the wrong thing by experience. You have to get good books and study the game so that you try to always make the right type of bet, the right size of bet, and so on. And then even if you lose in that one hand, you'll know that you did the right thing.
And the books
So
can give you insight into that because
that's correct.
it does. And we want to jump into your chess background too, because you've done the same thing on chess. Any great tips that you can share with us on
Well, for chess,
winning in chess?
there's no money in chess. You should play the game for enjoyment. I learned as in 1965, during the summer between 8th grade and my freshman of high school, I first learned to play chess, and I played chess on and off then all that time. It's like 50 years.
Tell me what your trick is.
Well, sometimes you would make an early queen move that they weren't really expecting. And normally it's a big mistake to move your queen out too early because it's a target. But that's one example. And over many years, I had about 35 games where I beat much stronger players. And I thought, what I'll do is I'll kind of publish a little book on chess. And here it is, which I published in 2010.
And
it's called Chess Juggler, Balancing Career, Family, and Chess in the Modern World.
Any other trick that you've used?
You need to know very well about what's called the opposition, where you come down to king and pawn endings. And I've beaten some very strong players because I knew some of the basic mechanics of the opposition and king and pawn endings, perhaps a bit better than some other even much better players.
Well, fascinating. Well, for people who are watching this, they surely gotten the idea that you're a man of many talents. So tell me a little bit about the book, Seeking Hidden Treasures, a collection of curious tales and essays. You know, from what I've read in your book, your stories have been surprising with and with some penetrating conclusions. And there it is, right there.
Yes. So the book, it has 12 stories and 5 essays. And because of the Alfred Hitchcock experience I explained earlier, I'd had some ideas through the years. Someday I'll write some mystery stories.
Well, listen,
so I had these ideas for the mystery stories, and I was interested in short stories, and I was also interested in having very clever plots, because it was always frustrating when we would sometimes go to a movie. There would be car chases and some gunfights, but I was really interested not just in interesting characters, but I wanted to see a movie that had a really clever plot. And so my stories I focused on a plot. And as you can tell from the title, it's generally about finding a buried treasure or hidden cache or something of that sort.
Because I was reading some of your material, and it said to me that you like to have sort of a surprising twist that people don't expect in the end. Is that right?
I do. An author needs to be careful, because if you make a really unexpected twist that comes out of nowhere, that's cheating the reader. So I try to have a special twist in a story that actually a clever reader who was paying attention could have predicted that might have happened.
There's so many people who are authoring books these days, including myself.
Yep.
And I do think that back in our mind, you know, we would like to see it take off, only because it's the gratification or confirmation that other people like what we do. So there's somewhere, I think, in all writers, there's that instinct.
Right. So these were for fun, and then there was one serious aspect. Through my career as a scientist and a physician, I saw many people who were very materialistic, and they seemed not to value the importance of a mature spiritual life, a mature way of looking at the world.
Really excellent that you're bringing that as part of your inner drive, for something that I've noticed even myself, and as I guess every writer, but especially people in the professions, the doctors, the lawyers, they have a problem getting away from a rather rigid form of writing into something that is more palatable to the general consumer. Did you feel that, and how have you gotten yourself through that, or do you agree with what I'm saying?
I agree with what you're saying. As a scientist, I would tend to write subject, verb, object, and be very, very clear. As a mystery writer, I still generally use subject, verb, object, and also my writing is very clear. It's not very ornate or very artsy. And I like sort of a more straightforward way of communicating with the reader. People don't have much time just to drive places and go to the supermarket and everything that people have to do. Everything takes time.
That explains how you've made that transition. I think it's clear, and we want people to gain an interest in your book, Seeking Hidden Treasures. But is there anything else as a takeaway that you can share with people? Whether it be in chess or in poker or in retirement itself, or just living a good life.
Yeah, well, I would say that you need to have a broad perspective as you enter retirement, that life is short, and you need to be a productive, contributing citizen who is helping other people and doing useful things, but also have a little fun. We don't all have to walk around in sackcloth. So as I began to win some money at poker, starting with that 32,000 in about 2013, I felt comfortable then spending some of the winnings to play more poker. And then I had a big win in 2015. I won $250,000 in a Las Vegas tournament.
So, Jim,
so that puts me way ahead. I can spend, for any tournament I want to go to.
Are you still playing poker?
I play about once a month in a tournament in Connecticut, and I try, if my schedule allows, to go to Las Vegas every July to play in the World Series of Poker.
Is it nerve-wracking?
It's nerve-wracking, and people would get a sense for it by one of the stories in my book. It's the longest story. It's more than 100 pages. It's called Bamboozle, a Poker Mystery. And this actually tells the accurate poker information, if anybody's interested in the poker, of how I won $250,000 in that tournament in Las Vegas.
How much have you won over your career in poker?
About 400,000.
Wow. And the secret to your success again?
Well, the main secret is that you have to study the game. A lot of young people get involved in poker and they play hours and hours, have practical experience playing, but they're not reading books to study the game. There's very important tricks about bet sizing, squeeze plays, many other, being able to calculate. There are rules of thumb of how to do a very quick math calculation of probability without going through all the complicated calculations. But you can do it right at the table. And if you know these rules of thumb, you can instantly make very quick judgments about the math. But then there's more than the math. There's other factors as well. But let me just explain in this story, although the poker in that story gives the accurate hand details of what poker hands I had, that's kind of dry for a short story for a general reader. So I added some romance and a crime to that Las Vegas experience.
Good for you.
So the romance and the crime are fiction, but the poker is technically accurate.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to get into that book. Jim, I want to thank you so much. This has been great. That's Jim Magner, and He's an MD. He is author of Seeking Hidden Treasures, a collection of curious tales and essays. And you can find his book at our awesome deals section right here. And in the meantime, we have more amazing guests coming up. So get our newsletter at bloomerboomer.com to find out who will be coming up next. And until next time, so long.